thought this was kind of interesting, Chris. They're saying that Chairman Powell has a different approach to his predecessors because of his different background, different than Yellen, Bernanke, and Greenspan. He comes from Carlisle, Powell, and he's more polished than others.
I wouldn't disagree.
No, I know you wouldn't because that's what you said. But I mean, the criticism of the rookie, whatever you want to call it, the rookie mistake back in the fall that caused the markets to, or at least some people attribute that the markets fell, and then he kind of backtracked and learned from his mistakes. That didn't seem that polished, or Greenspan, at least we never knew what he was saying, so he couldn't really move the markets, right?
So, I was fortunate enough to get to know Chairman Powell fairly well at my time at Treasury, and I think his approach is a unique approach, but I think it's a breath of fresh air. This level of transparency is something that I think is amazing, and I think that his anti-geek speak, kind of democratizing information for the average investor and for folks on Wall Street, can be nothing but good. I think some people criticize the Fed for maybe speaking too much. I think that the new level of transparency has been, I think, really effective. Again, I know people criticize, but
you don't see any. You don't ascribe any blame to his comments back in the fall for what happened with the market. And now, what happened in terms of him changing his opinion? The facts changed, or he interpreted the data the first time around? I mean, Cramer would say that it was clear to a lot of people who did any homework at all that the economy, wasn't strong enough to warrant a December increase and a well below normal comment. I mean, you don't ascribe any blame or he didn't misstep at that point?
I don't see it that way, and I certainly we hear from our clients.
I guess you don't have any stocks in your portfolio.
I do have a fair amount of stocks, but I think that the markets rise and fall. But again, I think that the chairman leaning in, the chairman leaning in is I think, and the level of transparency has been amazingly good from our perspective. It's actually one of the reasons why we're launching this institute at my firm, to bring about the transparency and to give our clients a new voice in the policy debate. But there's the challenge, I think, is real. I think that the Chairman Powell's approach has been different than the past chairman. But I think the level of transparency is something that I think we should applaud.
Julia?
Well, look, I don't think it's all that different an approach. It's been an evolution towards increased transparency.
Which you like.
Starting with Bernanke, which I think is a good idea. I mean, in this day and age, they really don't have any choice but to be beholden to the public and more responsive to the public. I think what happened in the fall was the economy was changing and markets were changing very rapidly. And it's always awkward. It was awkward when Yellen had to manage these inflection points. It was awkward when Bernanke had to manage them. So it's never smooth when you're Fed chair. Sometimes you face these turning points.
They didn't have any inflection points. They just sat on zero.
No, well, you don't remember in 2016 when Janet Yellen sort of pulled. Well, they were going to execute 4 interest rate hikes in 2016, and then they did one. Because the global economy was slowing down, like we're in right now. So it was a very similar situation. I think with Chairman Powell's more folksy use of language, that can run into problems sometimes. One of the reasons that Fed speakers tend to be so rigid is because it keeps them out of trouble. So when he sort of speaks off the cuff like he did in the fall, long way from neutral, if you listen to what he said, it wasn't that he wasn't pounding the table being hawkish, but that's how it came across when it was,
But he went from a long way from neutral to being at neutral.
To being just below neutral, to being
in the space
at neutral,
of a quarter,
to being in neutral.
It was only one hike.
But that reflects sort of what's happening on the ground in the economy, which is it's an inflection point. We've seen things slow pretty quickly, globally, domestically.
But hopefully you have people in charge of one of the most important bodies on earth that aren't just looking at trailing data. They actually have an idea of what might be coming.
They're not
totally
smarter than us. I know it's disturbing, but they're not. They don't have the secret bullet.
Other people at that time saw some slowing numbers.
Right. So, and they did too, and they acknowledged that, and then they've shifted. So it's always going to be an imperfect process. They are humans like us, after all.